All right, it says we're live. We must be live. Whoa, what's going on with the hair, Maloney? Hey, everybody, hope you're having a great Friday. Christopher Maloney here with, who? Practice Warriors. Yes, we teach you how to practice like the pros. And go on over to practicewarriors.com. You get yourself a free practice tips book and sign up for a 14-day free trial. 14 days free trial. All right. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. I am going to chat with you guys about what we talked about in the Music Motivating Monday this past week, which could be not comparing yourself to other musicians. And we're going to get on that in just a moment. I do want to remind you, as a thank you for watching this video, if you're watching it on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Western European Time. What's that in Korean time? Doesn't matter. You get to have access to 3 free practice tools, 2 amazing video lessons, and a practice PDF, which is amazing, and the 14-day free trial of Practice Warriors. So just for watching tonight, if you click on the link, I shall put it in the chat, you get your 3 free practice tools. Right on. All right, very cool. So let's get right to the topic. A lot of times I introduce myself and talk about my experience and drop names and all that stuff. If you want to know more about me, just go to practicewarriors.com, and then you can click on a little picture of me being silly, and you can read all my experience and all that stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience today in this topic of not comparing yourself, because I think that everybody, especially if you're in the arts, has this challenge. The challenge of looking at people who do what you do and thinking, where do I rank? Where am I in the pecking order of things, right? Like, and some people can do it in a very negative way, like they're really down on themselves, I don't know if you guys know who Alan Holdsworth is. Alan Holdsworth, in my opinion, is probably one of the greatest electric guitar players who's ever held an instrument. Eddie Van Halen, it was literally Eddie Van Halen's favorite guitar player. In fact, Eddie got Alan a record deal in the 80s. He put out a great album called Metal Fatigue, I think. And I have quite a few friends who have played with Alan. The great bass player Ernest Tibbs. I can't remember who else. And I've met Alan quite a few times, and I'm always pretty complimentary of him, because not only do I think he's an astonishing player, but I think as a composer, he's sort of unparalleled. I mean, I just don't know where his harmony comes from. And I asked him one time, how do you rate these songs? He goes, I don't know. I can't stop modulating. But the whole point of bringing up Alan Holdsworth is that of all the musicians I've met, whether it's a 4-year-old kid learning to play drums, or, some of my students who have gone on to play with, people like Rihanna and 30 Seconds to Mars and Jay-Z, and like anyone in between, right? Alan Holdsworth was probably the most down on himself of any musician I've ever met. And anyone who knows Alan can attest to this, that he is so incredibly hard on himself. And I'll be like, hey, I loved your show tonight. Oh, I suck. It sucked. And I wouldn't know if he was like putting me on, like just trying to be like falsely modest, or if the poor guy lived with this constant state of like, I'm not good enough. And so I think that it's part of that psychology that you want to stay away from. I mean, if music isn't bringing you joy and all you think about is how much you suck, how are you doing it? You know what I mean? It's not, if it's not bringing you joy, what's the point of it? And I think what a lot of people do is they get down on their playing, they get down on themselves. Just maybe it's their own natural like psychosis, maybe they're down on themselves with everything. But it's easy for us to be doubtful of our efforts in things that we're actually quite passionate about. You write a song. Is that any good? I don't know. I'm really nervous to play for this person. I don't, So it is sort of natural, and it takes quite a long time to get over that. And even myself, I write songs, I record songs, I'm playing, and you know, I think it's sometimes tough for me to do the same. I have the same doubts and insecurities that everyone has. But what I don't have, and I'm proud of, and I want to get it through to you tonight, is the comparison game, right? Where I worry about, well, is someone better than me, or looking at someone who has more skills in a certain area and being just down on myself. Oh, I should be better. Why aren't I better? Why don't I play like this person? I can't. I suck. That's the kind of comparison that we want to get rid of. Really, really do. And what's funny, the musicians that I've met that are like either crazy at the top of their game or like just really well known and established, famous, they've they've gotten rid of that thing, that sort of comparison thing. They don't feel they have to brag. They don't feel they have to be falsely modest. They don't feel that they have to be anything other than themselves. And what's great about that is that it makes you more open and more eager to learn and more curious. If you're not trying to put yourself over people or keep yourself under, then everybody in the world becomes your teacher. They really do. And it's really an incredible thing to think about. And it's an incredible place to be. Okay. And like I said, it's hard not to compare yourself. But you know, I'm looking at Gerald's comment here because I want to address it before I move on. Yeah, I see some awesome guitarists playing, and I sit there and go, I can't do that, and then I don't practice. Right. That's what you don't want to do, right? You've got to get to a place where you can see someone great and get inspired. And that's where I'm at in my musical journey. But it wasn't always like that. For the first 10 years of my playing, it was all about comparison. Am I good? Am I better? I think I'm better than you. Ooh, this person's better than me. It was this whole thing that I was dealing with. And what it did is it shut me down from being open to learn. It shut me down because I was always trying to be better or hide that I wasn't as good, right? Give that up. And I think the place that I gave that up was in music school. So I went to a state college in New York, Oswego State University, go Lakers, and studied with some great musicians, had my own band. I went to Air Studios Montserrat, George Martin's studios in 1989, where the Rolling Stones were just there a week before. I mean, I got to do some crazy, awesome things, even as a teenager, through this little school. And I learned a ton. But I still had that, you know, angry young man kind of thing, who's better, who's best, what's going on. But when I went to an actual music school, I already had my degree from Oswego State. So I went to this great school, the Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California. And all of my teachers were like the best bass players in the world, right? I studied with Steve Bailey, who's now the head of the Berkeley Music Department, Jeff Berlin, who's played for years with Alan Holdsworth. I just talked about like some crazy, crazy musicians. And the first couple of weeks, we're all the bass players, because I was studying bass, we're all kind of checking each other out and what's this person doing and can I do this and what's going on here? And we were kind of side-eyeing each other a little bit. I don't know what changed. I don't know if it was because we were a small part of the school, or like 10 guitar players, every one of us, but we started to band together, no pun intended, where we would have like these little jam sessions. And six bass players in a room jamming doesn't sound like a good time, but it was really cool. And we would just play like a groove. We'd have a little drum machine going, and someone would play like a proper bass line, and someone would play some like chords on the bass, someone would be soloing, and then maybe someone's playing some harmonics. So we're all just kind of jamming, and we're letting one person kind of solo and we're supporting, and then they'd stop and then someone else would solo. And so it was kind of cool. It was like a dance off. You're all dancing in a circle. Okay, now you jump in the middle, do your thing. And I got to tell you, what was astonishing was that once in a while, somebody would play something really cool, and we would all stop and be like, "Whoa, what did you just play there?" Right? And the bass. Remember, we're all at some point we're going to graduate this school, and we'll probably be competing for gigs. But we were there to learn, and that was the whole point of it. So we had no problem. Like the person who played something cool would show us exactly what they played. Oh man, I played this. What is that? Oh, it's this cool little scale that I played. I learned this from one of my teachers, and we would all like steal that person's licks. Like, oh, show us that. So all of a sudden now we're learning from this person. Then we'd all be jamming again, noodling around, and someone else would play something cool. And we'd go, oh, stop, pull the record off. What is that? And it was like, oh, well, this is a little slap thing I learned from Alexis here. It's kind of cool. You could do this and that. Oh, show it, break it down. Let's see it. We stopped being competitive and we started being cooperative. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we weren't afraid anymore of where we stood. We learned, especially in those jam sessions, that regardless of like who had more experience, who had more chops, even, everybody had something that they could do better than anyone else. Whether they knew that cool little scale or that little slap lick, or they knew how to play kind of a cool chord on bass, like, oh, here's a cool sound. Oh, what is that? Like, we all had cool things that we could share. I'll tell you another story. I didn't tell this. We just had this live thing on Facebook. I just remembered this story. I was studying with a great bass player in Syracuse, New York, named Ron France. And he was like a mentor of mine. I think I talked about this with Finding a Music Mentor. Yeah, I did talk about Ron. And I think I did mention the story, but I'll mention it again. When I saw this guy when I was 18 years old, he blew my mind. Gerald, you might find some solace in this, right? This guy blew my face off. He was doing the slapping thing, I'm a big fan of that. And I had never seen anyone do it. I heard recordings and all that, but I never saw anyone do it. This is before YouTube and, DVDs weren't a thing, and, VHS tapes were just coming out. I was blown away. I didn't think that I could ever do that and play like that. But I convinced him to have me come and do a lesson with him. See, this is the thing. I guess I had this for a long time. If you see someone who plays great, talk to them, get to know them. Hey, man, can I have a lesson with you? Like, I'd love to just get me like on the track. But anyway, I did lesson with Ron France, and then I think I did another one like a year later, and then another one like 2 years later, and then it was like maybe a year before I moved to LA, and I had some pretty good chops. And I did another lesson with Ron. I'm like, hey, let's do a little touch up. And I was playing him some cool things that I had worked out. And he looked at me and he said, almost under his breath, like, I don't know, man, maybe you should show me some of your stuff. Right? Like, wow, you did not just say that. And he meant it. You know what I mean? This is the kind of thing when you get rid of, we talked about this with abolishing your ego. When you get rid of the comparison game, you open yourself up, you become vulnerable in a way that you ask people to help you grow as a musician. That's what happens when you get rid of comparing. You're not competitive, you're cooperative. Now I understand doom scrolling, on social media, and you see some 7-year-old twerp shredding on the instrument you spent 20 years just barely getting by on. There's a very, kind of thing of like, and you can't really ask them for a lesson or anything. But when you start to get rid of the comparison game, that kind of thing gets you inspired. And you can take that 7-year-old punk and go to your private teacher. I hope you're all studying privately. You can take that and go, hey, I love what this punk kid's doing. What's he doing or what's she doing? Can you kind of get me started? I like what this person's doing. I told you guys the Oscar Peterson story. I think it was abolishing the ego. How it being one of the greatest jazz piano players, he's in his 80s, and he's asking Keith Jarrett for, showing him some cool licks. When you get rid of comparison, you open yourself up to learning from everyone. You have abolished your ego. You have opened yourself up to allow anyone to show you anything. And now you just have total musical growth. It's amazing. Um, I did well that year at Musicians Institute. I actually won the Outstanding Student of the Year award, which was one of my major goals in my life. And I think a big part of it, one, was actually I enlisted all the Practice Warrior stuff that I show you in our master class, practicewarriors.com. And I opened myself up so that not only was I learning from my teachers, not only was I learning from other teachers, I'd go into like drum classes and have drum instructors like give me advice. I'd ask guitar players that I was playing with, hey, how is it playing with me? How's my time? How's this? How's that? But I learned from my fellow bass players. And even when I was in my professional life and I was a session player in LA and I was doing tours and albums and doing all this great stuff, I had a roster of bass players who I loved, who I would call to sub for me. And so if I would be doing one tour and I couldn't do another, I could call on a whole stable of amazing bass players. And I can't say that I didn't size myself up with them to a certain extent, because again, like Gerald said, it's hard not to do that. But I definitely would never feel bad or intimidated. In fact, there was a great bass player. I was in this band called Cosmo Squad. If you've never checked out Cosmo Squad, we have a DVD. You just watch it on YouTube called Lights Camera Squad. It's a three-piece band. Unbelievable music. Music that was way more difficult for me to play. But if you get my free 3 free practice tools, I'll have a video to show you how I learned to play that stuff. But anyway, I was working with that band for a long time, and then I put out my first solo record, and then right after that, my second solo record, and I left the group temporarily to focus on my solo stuff. And I had a buddy of mine named Paul Shannon, Paul Shahada, and Paul, I'd see Cosmo Squad play and watch him play, and I'd be like, why is he playing it better than I did? Oh, he's really good at the soloing thing, which was always like, a deficiency of mine. I never really got into applying myself with the jazz improvisation stuff, and it just never moved me. I wanted to learn other things, and Paul just was so amazing. And so I said, can we please get together, because I really I want to know how you're doing this. And that took balls, man, to look at a contemporary, admit that I had deficiencies in my playing, put him up on a pedestal like, no, you're better than me. Can you help me? Now, we were sharing this gig, but there are some other gigs that, we probably were in competition with, but we didn't care, because really at that point, it's all about becoming the best musician you can be. So I sat down with Paul and was like, man, come on, what are you doing? I really want to get to the level you're at. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, you show me some of that slap stuff, I'll show you my stuff. And so again, it's this level of our egos aside, we're comparing in a way, but now we're doing it in a positive way where I go, whoa, he's better at me than this. This guy could be one of my mentors or one of my teachers. Are you seeing the benefit of this and how comparing yourself, being in that whole judging game, can really keep you from becoming your best musical self? It really is. So how do you get over it? I didn't really address this on the Facebook thing and the Instagram thing. I think the thing is you one want to abolish that ego. Start to look at everybody as being a potential teacher. You start looking at it that way. Then when you see that hot saxophone player ripping saxophone player, sax player. If you put sax player and saxophonist, it's going to get sax player. And you see them ripping through Charlie Parker solos, and you're like, nope, nope. I just want to quit. Put the sax away. Don't do that. Figure out, what can I learn from this person? What can I learn from them? Well, I don't know. It's Randy Brecker, so I'm not going to be able to hang out and talk to him. Oh, okay. Well, maybe there's an instructional video you put out, or maybe, um, you know, you could take it to an instructor in town and say, "Hey, do you know this style? Can you show me this? This person played, and they inspired me." I think that's a huge part of it, you know. And you know, there's no benefit in putting yourself down in any way, whether it's a life happiness thing. I don't know if Alan Holdsworth was an unhappy guy, but every time I met him, he seemed to be, because he was just always like, oh, I suck, I suck, I suck. I'm like, okay, well, can I suck like you? I play bass. I just want to suck like you. Forget about guitar. I don't even want to touch the guitar and try to do what you're doing. You know, it doesn't feed you in any way. There's no service to you to be like that. So just kind of know that no matter where you are in the spectrum, there's always something better than anyone else. I know there's a lot of things Alan Holdsworth couldn't play. You know what I mean? He just did Alan Holdsworth stuff. Everything he did was his thing. So that's cool. And if you could do that, you could do that. One of the greatest bass players of all time is a guy named Morocco Prestia, who was the bass player for a band Tower of Power. And he's just an astonishing player. And I've met him, and I wanted to jam with him one time, and he laughed with me and goes, "Two bass players don't play together, buddy." Like, he just couldn't even understand how there's not just one bass player, and that's the end of it. And Rocco playing funk music is one of the best. Who's better than him? Maybe one or two other people. Even Jaco Pastorius got his funk ideas from Rocco Prestia. But Rocco Prestia, rest his soul, could only do Tower of Power stuff. He couldn't sub a jazz gig. He couldn't play country music. He could probably play blues somewhat, but not as good as the guy from Chicago who's been playing it his whole life. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody's got something special in their playing. I've even been on lessons with people, teaching a 14-year-old guitarist a 14-year-old girl how to play and write songs. And she would play two chords, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, that is such a cool chord progression. How did you think of it?" Well, I'm like, "I'm stealing that." You know what I mean? I'm your teacher, and you just showed me something that I've never done before. And having abolished the ego and having got rid of the comparison thing, I was able to admit that. I felt great about it. So stop it. Stop it. You are valuable. You have something to offer the music world. When you see someone who has more skills in a certain area than you, get inspired. Go grab your instrument. Think about how you can better yourself. Talk to that musician if you can. Let me tell you something. If you go up and talk to a musician and say, "Hey, you were really great. I really appreciated what you did," you're not going to be bothering them. They're going to be like, "Oh, thanks. Oh, that's so cool. Hey, how did you learn that? What did you work on to get those skills? Do you give lessons? Do you know anyone in town who could show me what you're doing? You know what I mean? So like, get rid of the comparison, get curious, become cooperative, see the whole world and everyone in it as your little study group, like I had it in mine. Cool. All right, let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to sign off in a minute. Please go and check out practicewarriors.com. We have an incredible membership site where you can see interviews with the top musicians in the world. All we talk about are practice strategies. You've got our 14-unit masterclass, hundreds of musicianship videos where I show you cool practice strategies with playing scales, creating solos, modes, chords and arpeggios, rhythm and timing, dynamics and articulations, all kinds of great practice tips. And if you click on the link that I put in the comments before midnight tonight, you get 3 free practice tools and a 14-day free trial to Practice Warriors. Cool? All right. And if you're seeing this in the replay and it's not Midnight Friday, you still got a chance to do it. All right. I don't see any more questions. Hey, I'm thinking that this might be one of the last times I do this. The response hasn't been overwhelming, especially on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. So we might stop doing it. And I don't know if we'll continue this on YouTube. The YouTube engagement has been better. But if you guys wanted to have me keep doing this, please let me know, because this was just kind of a trial thing. Another idea is that instead of doing these live, we would sort of up the production value a little bit and put these into a podcast. So we just have like little 30-minute things where I'm riffing on these topics. And that way you can listen to it anywhere. And we would film it. So you will be able to see it on YouTube. So let me know what you guys think. If you want me to continue doing this, or if you think this would be a better podcast thing, maybe we do like a more produced video. Let me know. I am not doing this for my health. I'm doing this for you guys because I love music. And music's been a big part of my life for my whole life. And not only have I made a career on it, but it's brought me immense joy. I can't even tell you. And I just love sitting down, playing, writing, working with other people, teaching. I love sharing this with other people. So I guess I am doing it for myself, but I'm also doing it to impart some wisdom of my years to you guys and get you fired up, because my mission in life now, at this stage of my life and my career, is really to get as many people in the world convinced properly that they could be the kind of the musician they've always dreamed they could be, that you can do it. And if you don't think you can, check out Practice Warriors. We spend the first 3 units of our masterclass convincing you that you can be a great musician. We do all kinds of psychological exercises. It's really, really cool. All right. This is my mission. And let me end it by saying this. The world is nuts right now. People are so unhappy. Could you imagine how we could change the world by everyone just like playing music? Yeah, you see all these angry people on TV and everyone putting everyone down, trying to puff themselves up and push other people down. Do you think they would act like that if they were just sitting around playing guitar, writing a song, or picking up their saxophone and just like riffing on that great Careless Whisper riff, right? That'd be the first thing I'd learn. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have these problems in the world if people played and loved their music. We just wouldn't. Because when you're filled with joy, when you're filled with happiness, you ain't got time to hate. You ain't got time to put other people down. You stop becoming competitive and you start becoming what? Cooperative. And that's what we want to get at. Okay? All right, my friends, thank you so much for checking this out. It's always great to spend time with you. I hope this gave you value. And if it did, please like it. Please leave a note in the comments. And of course, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. All right. You guys take care. And I'll see you when I see you.